Good morning, I'm Deirdre Bolton. Today on ABC News Live, breaking news overnight, a major setback for former President Trump in the battle over those Mar-a-Lago documents. What an appeals court has now ruled about the classified information seized by the FBI, plus the latest on the New York Attorney General's civil lawsuit against the former president. Trump has fired back. We've got the details. Protests and panic. More than 1,000 Russians arrested and nearly all flights out of the country sold out following Vladimir Putin's announcement that he's calling up 300,000 men for military service. His nuclear threats analyzed. And Lindsay Davis has sat down to talk with Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, about social media, his brand battle, politics, a Good Morning America exclusive. Hear also what he has to say about co-parenting with Kim Kardashian. But we begin with the latest on the war in Ukraine and Vladimir Putin under pressure. Protests breaking out across Russia with more than 1,000 people arrested after Putin's order to call up more troops. Our chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz, has more.
More than 1,000 Russian protesters detained by Russian police after taking to the streets. Young men chanting, "I don't want to die for Putin." Mothers screaming, "Send Putin to the trenches, let our children live." This after President Putin suddenly announcing he would call up 300,000 men for military service after his massive losses in Ukraine. Putin called the move necessary and urgent, causing not only protests but panic. Within hours of the speech, citizens flooding the airports, with nearly all international flights out of Russia sold out. President Biden at the UN launching a blistering condemnation of Putin.
President Putin has made overt nuclear threats against Europe. Now, Russia's calling up more soldiers to join the fight. And the Kremlin is organizing a sham referenda to try to annex parts of Ukraine. This world should see these outrageous acts for what they are.
Biden saying the world's blood should run cold over the invasion of Ukraine. Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky in a pre-recorded speech to the UN calling for more military and humanitarian aid.
A crime has been committed against Ukraine, and we demand just punishment. The crime was committed against the values that make you and me a community of the United Nations. And Ukraine demands punishment for trying to steal our territory.
This comes as the battle on the ground continues to rage, with Russia vowing it will regain lost territory. ABC's Tom Sufi-Burridge is in Kharkiv in Ukraine's northeast.
We heard loud explosions here in central Kharkiv overnight, not far from here. As you can see, Russia is wrecking this city. But we're also hearing a lot of outgoing fire from the Ukrainians. Ukraine now trying to push east into the Donbass. Ukrainian forces trying to capitalize on their momentum before the weather turns, the ground softens, and any offensive becomes much harder.
But amidst the carnage and Putin's alarming escalation, some good news. 2 Americans, Andy Huyn and Alex Drueke, have been freed. The 2 men who joined the fight in Ukraine had been held as prisoners of war by the Russians for more than 3 months, along with 8 other foreign prisoners. They were part of a prisoner exchange mediated by the Saudi crown prince. Druke's mother already in touch with her son.
Alex said that he was in good spirits. He sounded good and strong, and it was just wonderful.
Both Americans are expected to be home soon, but Ukraine's war with Russia is far from over. Deirdre?
Martha, thank you so much. Martha Raddatz. Now to that major setback for former President Trump in court. The Department of Justice getting the go-ahead from an appeals court to use the documents seized from Mar-a-Lago in its criminal probe without having to submit them to a special master. Meanwhile, New York Attorney General suing former President Trump, his 3 oldest children, and his business, claiming Trump lied about his net worth, inflating it by billions of dollars in order to cheat lenders. Now Trump is firing back, calling it a politically motivated witch hunt. ABC News senior investigative reporter Aaron Kotarski joining me now, along with Law and Crime Network Network host and legal analyst, Terry Austin, both for more. Aaron, let's start with you with this Mar-a-Lago case, because the former president has claimed that he can declassify information by declaring it declassified, or even thinking of it in terms of being declassified. Where does this leave us? You
cannot just declassify something by merely thinking about it. That's not how the process works. And I think the former president's answer to Sean Hannity reveals that maybe he didn't take any overt steps to declassify the information that the FBI seized from Mar-a-Lago. Either way, the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals said that the declassification argument is a red herring, because Trump has yet to show why he even has an interest in these documents, or why he should have any claim over them. So the three-judge panel, two of which, by the way, were appointed by Trump, restored the government's access to these documents marked classified. They no longer have to be turned over to a special master for review, and the Justice Department can continue now to build its criminal investigation to decide whether anybody should be charged over the way these documents were handled.
Aaron, hold that point. We're going to pick up on that with you, Terry, this idea of allowing the Justice Department to use these documents without, as Aaron just said, a special master. So what does this mean for the investigation?
Well, that's going to make the investigation go a lot faster, a lot smoother. There won't be any stalling there. And they need to take a look at these documents to determine exactly whether or not they were classified, whether Trump had the right to take them to Mar-a-Lago, and essentially there was no reason for him to do that. And what the DOJ is trying to do is to protect the public, to protect our security. That's why they need to determine whether or not these are actually classified documents. So the faster, the better for all of us to protect the United States against anything that could happen if these documents were to get in the hands of someone that shouldn't be looking at them.
That makes sense. Terry, Aaron, I'd like to just turn the page, look at a different lawsuit, the New York AG. What exactly is the former president and his three oldest children, what exactly are they being accused of?
They're being accused of astounding fraud, to use the words of the Attorney General here in New York, Letitia James, who says that for 20 years, the Trumps prepared fraudulent and misleading financial statements on every property almost in their portfolio. And that includes his own apartment at Trump Tower. It includes Mar-a-Lago, his current home, golf courses in different parts of the country and around the world. The effect was to inflate Trump's net worth by billions of dollars. And it tricked the banks, the lawsuit said, into giving Trump money on lending terms that he probably didn't deserve.
Yeah, essentially, if I were to say my net worth is X and it's a fraction of X, that changes the way banks behave.
But if you did it, or I did it, and you defrauded a bank, Letitia James says the authorities would come after you. And she says we couldn't get away with that, and Trump shouldn't either. Proving it could be a different story. Asset valuations are notoriously subjective, and Trump's defense, you can already see it, would say, I relied on the banks, I relied on the auditors, I relied on the accountants, and there's no reason that all the blame should fall on him.
So picking up on that point, Terry, I mean, Trump's legal team known for using tactics to delay and drag out lawsuits such as these. So is it going to be more of the same for this one?
Oh, I definitely think it's going to be delayed. I think it will be years before we see the end of this case. There will be pretrial motions. There will be motions to try to dismiss the case entirely. Certainly, they're going to be scrambling to get lawyers who can actually defend this case, because you're going to have to get people who are really sophisticated about the law. And you're going to have time to get experts, and they'll be dueling experts. So this is not something we're going to see go away quickly. There'll be tons of discovery. I think we all better just sit back, put our seatbelts on, and see what happens. But I will say it is a serious blow to Trump and his organizations in New York State.
All right, but I heard you say we're here for the long haul. Terry, Aaron, thank you both. Now to the battle on the latest with abortion. It has been 3 months since the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, and now a legal ruling in Arizona could allow a near total ban on abortion to go into place as soon as this week. This comes as a judge in Indiana blocked the state's abortion ban today from being enforced there. Senior national policy reporter Ann Flaherty with me now for more on this. And we're seeing legal movements in Arizona, in Indiana. What's the latest?
Well, it's very confusing. This is the game of legal whack-a-mole that we've been seeing now for weeks, ever since the Dobbs decision came down. In Indiana, we just got word that this near-abortion ban that went into effect last week has now been put temporarily on hold by a court there. So they are no longer enforcing that abortion ban in Indiana as of this morning. Arizona, a judge is expected to rule on a 100-year-old law that would ban abortion. But even if she supports that and allows that to go forward or blocks it, it doesn't matter. There's another law on the books that Arizona has that will be enforced as of Saturday that's a ban after 15 weeks. So very confusing. Depending on where you're standing on any side of a state border will determine whether or not you can get access to abortion.
And I want to turn your attention to Wisconsin. Republicans there, of course, just rejecting the governor's call to allow voters the chance to repeal the state's 1849 abortion ban. Polls showing the majority of people in Wisconsin support abortion rights. So what exactly does this ban entail, as old as it is, and what more can the governor do?
Right. Well, Democrats are clearly emboldened by what happened in Kansas. We saw red state Kansas when the voters were given the opportunity to vote up or down on abortion. They chose to allow access. They wanted those abortion rights. So Democrats are feeling very good about that. They want to put this ballot measure on every state if they could. So the governor there in Wisconsin, he's a Democrat. He wants to keep bringing this up. So the next thing that happens is October 4th. He's calling a special legislative session. He wants another vote, another chance to say this is where Republicans stand. Of course, Republicans don't want to talk about this. They want to talk about inflation, crime, and immigration.
Yeah, as we get towards the midterms. And Senator Lindsey Graham's controversial bill to ban abortions nationwide after 15 weeks has caused some division within the Republican Party, especially, as we mentioned, leading up to midterms, hyperclimate. Where exactly does this issue stand with Republicans?
So, Graham's bill absolutely shattered consensus of Republicans. Ironically, he thought that it would pull them together, that everybody could agree on a 15-week ban. Now, what I think people at home need to realize is that the vast majority of abortions actually occur in the first trimester. So this wouldn't stop 93% of abortions. That's according to CDC data. But he felt like this would give these flailing GOP candidates a lifeline or someplace to stand. I talked to one GOP strategist who told me, but that's like standing in the middle of a highway, because this is such a losing issue for so many Republicans. It only plays to their base. Independents show that they do support abortion access. So it's something that, again, Republicans don't want to talk about. They are running from this issue. They would much rather talk about the economy and the immigration and what's happening at the border right now.
And thank you, as always, Ann Flaherty with us there. Coming up, Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, opens up to Lindsay Davis about his life, his music, and what he has to say about co-parenting with Kim Kardashian after the break. Welcome back. Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, opening up about co-parenting with Kim Kardashian, his brand battles in the private Christian school he founded, and his future in politics. Our Lindsay Davis sat down with him for a one-on-one interview.
Top lights, flashlights, spotlights, strobe lights, street lights, all of the lights, all of the lights.
The spotlight has followed the artist formerly known as Kanye West for nearly 20 years, at times illuminating him as one of the greatest creatives of all time. But the light of scrutiny also shines just as brightly.
So social media, you feel, is that more hurtful or beneficial to you?
That's one of my favorite questions this interview. I mean, we can use a car to rush somebody to the hospital, or we could use a car and accidentally hit somebody while we're rushing somebody to the hospital. So it's all in how we use it.
Now, back up off my family, move your hands.
And that's how he uses social media, as a vehicle to amplify his voice. Something he says he's also had to do in order to successfully co-parent with his ex-wife, Kim Kardashian.
This is the mother of my children, and I apologize for any stress that I have caused, even in my frustration, because God calls me to be stronger. But also, ain't nobody else finna be causing no stress either. I need this person to be least stressed and the best sound mind and as calm as possible to be able to raise those children.
Do you feel you have a voice as you're co-parenting now?
I do have a voice, but I had to fight for it. That hurts you when you have to like scream about what your kids are wearing. And it's just little nuances where there was a parallel to what was happening at Gap, what was happening at Adidas, and what was happening in my home. It was all a kind of a disregard for the voice of something that I co-created. I co-created the children. I co-created the product at Adidas. I co-created the product at Gap. There's a parallel, and the parallel does touch on discrimination.
Even within your marriage?
Yeah, I want my kids to go to Donda, and I have to fight for a say-so.
Donda Academy is a private school he created, named after his late mother, Donda West.
We spread the gospel. The kids sing gospel to build a school that gives kids practical tools that they need in a world.
He recently turned to the tool of Twitter to post the termination of his Yeezy brand collaboration with Gap as he remains in an ongoing legal battle with Adidas.
How do you move forward now in the fashion industry when they're saying you can't even not only show Yeezy products, but anything bearing that likeness?
Oh, we got some new lawyers. We really had to level up and really show them who's the new boss in town.
He now plans to sell the Yeezy brand directly to consumers, something he argued about with radio host Sway back in 2013.
Or why don't you empower yourself and don't need them and do it yourself?
How, Sway?
Take a few steps back to go.
You ain't got the answers, man.
So Sway, almost 10 years ago, said, man, why don't you do it on your own? Was he right?
You know what? I will go ahead and say Sway had the answer. I know people are gonna be like, no.
And Ye, who ran for president in 2020, says his days in politics are not over.
Do you have future political aspirations?
Yes, absolutely.
For now, he plans to open up his first Yeezy store in Atlanta. When I asked him about affordability and accessibility, he said left up to Meezy, it would be freezy, but it's not that easy. But he does say that he wants everything in the store to be $20. Much more of my conversation with him streaming on ABC News Live Prime tonight at 7 Eastern and later on Nightline and Hulu. Deirdre.
Lindsay, thank you very much. And as Lindsay just mentioned, you can catch that full interview tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on ABC News Live, also streaming on Hulu. When we come back, the Garden State stays true to its name, beginning a climate change curriculum for all public school students. Find out more about this first-of-its-kind program when we return. Welcome back. As we continue to recognize Climate Week here in New York, we take a look at our neighbor, New Jersey. The Garden State, sticking true to its name, launched a climate change curriculum for all public school students this year. New Jersey, the first state to implement climate change into its school curriculum. The state says it plans to teach climate change across K through 12th grade, aiming to give every student the opportunity to study and understand the climate crisis by giving them the tools and knowledge to combat climate change. The woman spearheading this is the First Lady of New Jersey and the wife to Governor, of course, who is of New Jersey, Governor Murphy. Tammy Murphy, First Lady, we are delighted to have you with us. Thank you for being here. This legislation was signed back in 2020. What was the significance then and now to include a climate change curriculum into New Jersey schools?
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. I would say that the importance is that, climate change is really becoming a reality. I think we all know that. You can look around the world, whether it's Pakistan that's, has a third of the country underwater right now, or wildfires raging across the United States, droughts in Asia. And here in our own backyard in New Jersey, we have our own challenges, whether it's sea level rise or microbursts or algal blooms. And, as a mother of 4, I feel probably echoing most parents that I would love to leave my children with a future that is at least comparable to the one that the life I've lived. And I want to make sure that the next generation of students and those who come after have the skill set necessary to be able to win and succeed at the incredible jobs that are going to be available as we all shift towards a greener economy.
So within this curriculum, how will students be able to learn about how climate change affects them locally and globally?
So first of all, you should know that it's probably the silver lining of the pandemic is that this curriculum was going to be rolled out last year. And so we've had an extra full year. The Department of Education and all of our incredible educators across New Jersey have had another year to really figure out what their lesson plans will be, to engage in professional development, and to really hone in on what they are actually going to teach at the different grade levels. The Department of Education has created a website and a toolkit for our educators to be able to, access, whether it's lesson plans or videos or advocacy or whatever things they might need, as well as obviously professional development. And the Department of Education is going around and working with individual school districts to make sure that if there's anything that we have missed, that we are able to hone that for those teachers.
Yeah, I was going to say that makes sense, but I was going to ask you how the teachers specifically will be supported.
They're supported through the Department of Ed. They're supported through our office. And, I'd say that the districts themselves are able to design whatever it is that the way that they want to implement and interpret this new education standard. And so I would say that, if teachers need something, there is absolutely a feedback system and we're able to help them. I know that most teachers are very excited, if not all the teachers are really excited. We've gotten great initial feedback from them on this. And one thing you might want to know is before we even started working on these standards, I went around the state and visited easily, 10 to 15 schools. And many of these schools were already doing things, innovative things in their classrooms to expose the next generation to climate change, to sustainability, to resilience. And so there's a lot that's been going on even before we are mandating this new curriculum.
All right. Wow, it is an amazing effort. Thank you. First Lady Tammy Murphy of New Jersey. Delighted to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are following several other top stories. The U.S. is imposing new sanctions on Iran over what it calls abuse and violence against women and the violation of rights of peaceful Iranian protesters. At least 9 people have been killed in clashes between protesters and security forces after the death of a woman being detained by morality police for allegedly violating the country's strict dress code. The U.S. Treasury says the police were responsible for her death. After weeks on the run, Leonard Francis, also known as Fat Leonard, has been captured at the Caracas airport in Venezuela. He had been under house arrest after pleading guilty to offering military officials more than $500,000 worth of bribes to help his ship servicing company. It is unknown at this time whether Francis will be extradited to the United States or not. I'm Deirdre Bolton. Before we go, check out these stunning images of Neptune from the James Webb Telescope, bringing the farthest planet in our solar system closer to home, showing off the ice giant's crisp and narrow rings. Amazing. Along with 7 of its 14 known moons, including the largest, Triton. From the stars, back to a beautiful live shot of New York City on a mild Thursday morning. Stay with us here. ABC News Live continues with more news, context, and analysis.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.